I'll begin with a question. I think I'll start with you, Ms. McDowell. Trying to understand what gets included into this deferred maintenance category and kind of the prioritization, because Mr. Reagan, you made a statement here that that when it comes to the reoccurring and the cyclic needs, that effectively decisions are being made out of Washington, D.C., rather than the ability of the local folks on the ground to help prioritize this. And let me use just a specific example, Ms. McDowell. You heard me mention Polychrome Pass. You've noted it in your comments. Ms. Leonard has spoken to what has happened with the mudslide and just all that we're facing there. I think it's clear that we've got a situation where we're going to have to do something aggressive here, and rerouting a road in this area is extraordinarily difficult, extraordinarily timely, and extraordinarily expensive. But instead of coming up with a rerouting plan, we're basically using cyclic funds to just kind of patch it. And we now have a deferred maintenance budget out of the park, but certain areas of the park road are considered to be in that deferred maintenance budget, but the Polychrome Pass area is not. So the question is why is that the case? And then how is that determined? And ultimately, where's the accountability for the deferred maintenance number? Is it with the superintendent? Is it with the regional director? Is it with the folks back here in Washington, D.C.? And then, if you can just address that part of it.
Sure, thank you for that question. In looking at what is considered DM, so deferred maintenance has a technical definition. It is work that was not completed as scheduled. So if you're supposed to replace a roof every 7 years or repair it every 7 years and that repair is delayed, then the cost of that repair is included as part of our deferred maintenance number. If there are a different problem, let's say that there's something falls on the roof gets damaged for some reason, those repairs are high priority repairs, but they would not technically be considered deferred maintenance because they're not the result of maintenance work that was not completed.
So then with Polychrome Pass, it's not in that category of not having been completed, but it is an example of something bad has happened or could happen, so we need to get on it sooner than later.
Correct.
So what category then does that go into?
It falls into a high priority critical repair that needs to happen. When the Park Service looks at how it prioritizes its investment dollars, it's not just looking at items that fall into deferred maintenance. It's looking at health and safety and criticality for the park mission.
Good to know. So if it's in that high priority category, is that in the Alaska deferred maintenance budget? So we have, what do we have, $54 million that comes to Alaska for our deferred maintenance. We've acknowledged that half of that is within the park. I don't recall what the ballpark is for this, but how do you balance that? You've got the water and sewer issue that Ms. Leonard spoke to that is critical and pending. And now you have this, and tell me how you're prioritizing all of these critical projects.
So there are a number of different fund sources that the Park Service uses to address these large projects. That would be beyond the scope of, usually beyond the scope of any one park to deal with. So.
And does Superintendent Stryker have the ability to direct those funds?
He has the ability to apply for those funds, or for the Park Service or the region to prioritize that particular project out of these other fund sources that are available for all parks. So the Park Service uses a scoring system that we use to look at the various merits of projects across the system. There's out of line item construction or out of recreation fee dollars that are held at the Washington level for parks that may not collect fees. We use a similar scoring mechanism across the board so that we can try to compare apples to apples. For projects like the Polychrome Pass Road or some of these other critical wastewater treatment systems, that particularly at our larger parks, where we have large numbers of visitors relying on them, those projects score very well and usually end up at the top of many of our lists.
Well, I'm going to want to understand a little bit more, because I know that Senator Cantwell feels very strongly about her parks, and Senator Hirono and Senator Portman. Everyone feels very strongly about our parks, and I'm going to tell you that my priority is higher than your priority or your priority, because I've got a situation here, and we all recognize that the dollars that are needed are not sufficient, and so making sure that you have a prioritization system that makes sense. Again, I think that what Mr. Reagan has raised with the ability of your local superintendent to be able to address some of these more reoccurring issues with the dollars that come directly to those parks works in many of our parks, but then we have some parks in the state of Alaska that quite honestly don't have much visitation, so you don't see much revenue coming in. Anyway, I'm talking too long. I'm going to go to Senator Cantwell. You can continue asking my question.
Yeah,